Richard Holdridge. We are live from Columbus State University as we are getting you set for today's semifinal matchups. We got 4A here at Columbus State starting at 3 p.m. and we got 2A at Bruton Parker starting at 3 p.m. But we're going to recap yesterday's games as well. But first, we are presented by Roger Beck and the Beck Center. Thank you so much to the Beck Center of Academic and Athletic Success for being our presenting sponsor. What a day, a semifinal basketball to kick off what is going to be an incredible rest of the week. And we're going to finally decide who's going to be champions.
We had some fantastic games over at Bruton Parker yesterday in the 1A, and here for the 3A, we had some fantastic finishes and teams moving on to the championship.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get into it. Let's start with the 1A, Richard. As you saw yesterday, we had a major upset going down as Fullington Academy loses to Robert Toombs. The number 1 seed goes down for the girls in 1A classification.
This was a rematch of the championship game last year. Robert Toombs, the defending 1A champions, they're able to get it done. I mean, you can never underestimate the heart of a champion. The number 4 seed upsets the number 1 overall seed, Fullington Academy, 44-39, and they're going to play right here on Friday.
All right, that was one upset that happened. This wasn't an upset, but in my opinion it was, because I actually had Citizen Christian winning this game. St. George goes and takes down Citizens Christian. So we got Robert Toombs and St. George. They will play at 3 p.m. on Friday to be the 1A girls state champion. How about St. George taking down Citizens Christian?
Yes, and St. George has an opportunity to deny Robert Toombs a back-to-back championship.
Wow.
And I think that this is going to be a fantastic game. A team like St. George that's able to weather the storm, get by a very talented Citizens Christian team, and now they advance to the championship where they will take on Robert Toombs.
All right, that's the 1A girls. Now we're going to go to the 1A boys, and we're getting chopped, Richard. This is what we expected.
Yeah.
Citizen Christian boys takes down Thomas Jefferson in a huge way. They win this one by double digits, 64-50. What a win for Citizens Christian.
Yeah, Citizens Christian, they take on the number 5 seed, Thomas Jefferson, and they do get the 14-point victory. They were the number 1 seed all year.
Yep.
They're advancing to the championship, and we are going to have a new champion crowned in single A because the defending champion, Monsignor Donovan,
Wow.
is now in 2A. So I'm excited to see the 1A championship as well.
All right, and then moving on for the boys, FPCA and Robert Toombs and First Preparatory dominated Robert Toombs, and they're in the championship game.
Yeah, we're going to have all chalk in the championship for the boys. The number 1 seed taking on the number 2 seed. It's going to be Citizens Christian, First Preparatory Christian. I cannot wait for this matchup. It is going to be exciting.
All right, now we're going, and they, by the way, FPCA won 72-45 over Robert Toombs. And I was on the call for this one. John Millage in Westminster, India Williams, who had 61 in her win over Piedmont in the quarterfinals. She was held to 27, and I say 27 like that's not a lot of points. Problem is no one else for Westminster scored a point. And end up, John Millage got a big win. They won by 20. What a way for the coach over at, who I just had her name, and I already had this pulled up right now for you, Coach Jordan Walters. She did a fantastic job. What a game plan, being able to stop India Williams, and they won by 20. Kayla Foston was great. Lucy Elliott played excellent defense, and Pierce Moore, the freshman, had 20 points, Richard. What a win for John Millage.
Yeah, it was an incredible win for John Millage. He was battle-tested. They were in a tough region. They had a losing record going into this game, and the number 7 seed advances to the championship. If you like Cinderella stories, John Millage is the story for you, and they were able to get a good win over a number 6 seed who was also playing a little Cinderella, Westminster Schools of Augusta. We know about India Williams. We knew that she was going to have a fantastic game. The key is that John Millage found a way to slow her down. She took a lot of shots. Toward the end of the game, she started rushing those shots. Yes, she had 27 points. It was exciting. She had a lot of step-back threes. I think that India Williams, who's only a junior, by the way, is going to have a bright career, and she is just a very special player. But this was a team effort for John Millage, who has been battle-tested. You mentioned the freshman, Pierce Moore. Kalia Foston, who was a double-double.
Yep.
I mean, she had, what, 17 rebounds? I mean,
Unbelievable.
It was just unbelievable. Lucy Elliott, she got in a little foul trouble in the beginning of the game, but Lucy Elliott Her assignment was to guard India Williams, and she did just that. What a phenomenal job.
And they will be taking on Lakeview, the #1 team, defending champion. Lakeview had a great game against Frederica. Back and forth they went. You were on the call for that, Richard. How did that one play out? What was the final score?
Well, the defending 3A champions, Lakeview, took down Frederica 47-44, and they were led by Dynasty Putnam. She was just incredible. Talia Gaither, she was a good post player in the middle. But Frederica gave them a fight. The #4 seed Frederica out of St. Simon's Island has a pretty good shooter in Margaret Gary, and she had 4 3-pointers. I mean, she liked that corner three. The Mountain sisters, Aisha Mountain and Ava Mountain were fantastic, but it just wasn't enough. And Lakeview has an opportunity to go back-to-back. This is something Lakeview is familiar with being in the championship. They were there losing to Deerfield Windsor 2 years ago. They redeemed that win, and they were able to get the championship last year. And now we got a fantastic championship. We got the underdog, the #7 seed, going up against the overall #1 seed in Lakeview.
All right, for the boys, I was there for this one. St. Andrews and taking on Lakeview, a rematch of last year's Final Four. And St. Andrews wins another thriller, 45-43. At the end of this game, a timeout was called before the game was about to end. And evidently, Lakeview had no more timeouts. So they ended up getting a technical foul. Then that meant St. Andrews got the ball and free throws. And then Lakeview lost the game by 2 points. But it was back and forth. Lakeview was leading with about 13 seconds left, but missed a shot. Zayden Edwards goes coast to coast, gives St. Andrews a 1-point lead, and then it ends up being to where the tech was called because of timeout miscommunication. And we see in St. Andrews in the championship game, what a performance. Mel Abrams' team. Zayden Edwards was the player of the game. He had over 20 points, and it was a great one. And now St. Andrews is back in the state championship.
It really was an exciting finish. It's not the result that Lakeview wanted toward the end, but Taden Ware did bank a 3-pointer, although it didn't count because the Lakeview coach called a timeout when he didn't have one. I mean, sometimes you just don't like it when games finish that way, but it was fun and exciting. Like you mentioned, Zayden Edwards. I thought that Jakari Glover had a very good game trying to neutralize Taden Ware, because I remember Taden Ware from last year. This is a physical, dominant player who's going to Barry College.
Yeah.
He's got all the attributes and all the skills to play at the next level. And the defending champs get knocked out by St. Andrews. So we are going to have a new champion in 2A or 3A.
And then #1 seed Brookwood, been #1 all year. They go back and forth. Lane Seals was knocking down threes, but Brookwood comes up with a huge win as the Brookwood team is going to be led by Coach Nate Van Dyne. Goes to 28-2, and they're going to be taking on St. Andrews this Friday night at 8 p.m. You're not going to want to miss that one.
These two teams playing for the 4th time. These two teams were rivals in the same district. That was a lot of fun to see both student sections here. You had Brookwood out of Thomasville, Deerfield Windsor out of Albany. And some of the fans even toward the end were like, hey, we got our football championship. They were talking trash to the Brookwood team. It was a lot of fun. You see Lane Seals, who, he was the quarterback for Deerfield Windsor, who had 27 touchdowns. He was just raining threes.
Yes, he was.
But I thought that Brookwood had a very good team effort. Walker Jackson, hard to contain. He was like 6'10", and he's like a skilled big man. And Deerfield Windsor did not have an answer for him. I thought that Jordan Jean did a good job knocking down shots. Same with Thomas Lee, even though he got in foul trouble. Brookwood, there's a reason why they were ranked #2 in the overall GIAA rankings, because they've been the best team all year.
Yeah.
They had a disappointing year when they lost in the quarterfinals because they were one of the favorites to win it last year. They redeemed themselves, getting a rival. Hard to beat a team twice, 3 times, but they beat Deerfield Windsor 4 times. And what an incredible effort by Brookwood and Coach Van Dyne, and they advance to the championship.
All right, and by the way, the girls' championship game is between John Millage and Lakeview. That'll be 6:20 right here at Columbus State University on Friday. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to preview 2A and 4A here on GIAA Ultimate Preview Show We'll be right back after this. We are presented by the Beck Center.
This copyrighted broadcast, presented exclusively on GIAA.TV, is copyrighted by the Georgia Independent Athletic Association, a division of the Georgia Independent School Association, for the private use of our audience. It may not be retransmitted, reproduced, rebroadcast, or otherwise distributed or used in any form without the express written consent of the Georgia Independent School Association.
All right. Ready? We spent a lot of time doing.
This copyrighted broadcast, presented exclusively on GIAA.TV, is copyrighted by the Georgia Independent Athletic Association, a division of the Georgia Independent School Association, for the private use of our audience. It may not be retransmitted, reproduced, rebroadcast, or otherwise distributed or used in any form without the express written consent of the Georgia Independent School Association.
Welcome back, everyone. Thrift, Barringer, Richard Holdridge. It is our pregame show that we're going to do every day, we told you, right here live from the Lumpkin Center. And it's the 2A girls that we're going to start off with first. So happening at Bruton Parker at 3 p.m. today, we got Southwest Georgia, the number 2 seed, taking on number 3 Central Fellowship. What are you looking forward to this one, Richard?
Well, you got a team that lost to Briarwood in the quarterfinals last year. They are able to redeem that by defeating Briarwood to get to this point. Central Fellowship Christian, they lost to Piedmont last year in the Final Four. Well, Piedmont has moved on to 3A. They're already out of it.
Yeah.
We're going to have a new champion
There
in
we go.
2A. I think that all 4 of these teams have very good teams that they got disappointing seasons last year. So
Yes.
we're going to have a new champion, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
No doubt about it. And I'm leaning towards Southwest Georgia, but this one's really a coin toss for me. They will take on the winner, Brentwood, the number 1 seed, who's been number 1 all year, and Trinity Christian, who took down number 4 seed Edmund Burke in the quarterfinals. I like Brentwood in this matchup. I honestly think Brentwood is a team that I'm picking to win the championship and cutting down the nets. What about you, Richard?
I like Brentwood, too. They have a chance to redeem that quarterfinal loss to Trinity Christian last year. And I think that Trinity Christian, even though they have been in the championship, they did lose to the Final Four to Briarwood last year. Trinity Christian out of Dublin, I know I keep saying that on the broadcast, not to be confused with the Trinity Christian from Sharpsburg. This is Trinity Christian out of Dublin.
Yes.
You know that their fans are going to be packing at Bruton.
Oh, wow.
You know how close Bruton Parker is from Dublin?
Wow.
I mean, their fans, I was talking to Tony Morgan of the GIAA.TV and talking about how Bruton Parker, Robert Toombs fans, because Lions is so close, were packing that gymnasium. I expect the same thing with the Trinity Christian fans.
No doubt about it. All right, and that, by the way, that game will happen later tonight at 6 o'clock. Brentwood and Trinity Christian at 6. Southwest Georgia Central Fellowship at 3 on GIAA.TV and at Bruton Parker. Again, you pay $39.99 each day to get access to all 8 games, 4 games at 2 locations. What an incredible price.
Incredible deal.
It's like $5 a game, man. Come on.
Can't beat that.
You're watching high-level basketball all day long on GIAA.TV. Now let's go to the 2A boys, and we got Augusta Prep. Upset. So we didn't have a ton of upsets. We know we had 6 and 7 in the girls and 3A last week with John Millage and Westminster. Augusta Prep took down Central Fellowship Boys, who was the number 2 seed. They take on Furtop Prep, who played in the championship game last year.
They won it.
I'm going Furtop Prep back to the championship game, and I think it's our collision course we've been talking about all year long, taking on Heritage. We'll get the Heritage game here in a moment. Furtop Prep, Augusta Prep. Where are you going? Do you feel like the Cinderella is going to stay alive?
Furtop Prep is going to find a way to get this win, and I think Furtop Prep, the team from Ackworth, is going to try to go back-to-back. Furtop Prep knows what it takes to win in these situations, and they're in a great area of basketball where you got Kennesaw State, you got River Ridge, you got Etowah. I mean, there's so many great basketball talented teams in that area. I expect Furtop Prep to get the win over the 7-seed Augusta Prep Day, who's had a nice season.
Yeah.
But I just think, there's just too much Furtop Prep, defending champs. And that really means a lot when it comes to this experience being in these championship situations.
No doubt about it, Richard. And that's happening at 4:30 today. At 7:30, Heritage and Brentwood. Brentwood, the number 4 seed. Heritage, number 1, the team that played in the championship the last 2 years. Actually, last 2 years,
Yeah.
but they were in 3A. This time they're in 2A. Does Heritage finally cut down the nets? Well, they got to get past Brentwood, but Coach Job Jerome's team, led by Sam Mead, I think they got everything it takes. They are motivated. It's going to be a close one, but I got Heritage coming out on top by 10. How do you see this one playing out? I like Heritage and Furtop Prep, which, by the way, if those teams face off, they'll play 4:40 on Saturday right here at the Lumpkin Center.
Well, Heritage out of Noonan, they've had a history of winning athletics. I mean, their volleyball team won the championship. I think that making that move from 3A to 2A really helps Heritage. I mean, they were so close last year. They lost to Lakeview in the 3A championship, but Coach Joe Jerome, he has got just a great team. They got just an incredible shooter. I like Will Mendes or something.
Yep.
He's just a fantastic shooter. And I think that what's important is that Heritage has played tough competition. I mean, they've played 4A schools in the GIAA, and they're used to playing all these teams from their area. And so Heritage, I think, is going to end up winning this game against Brentwood. A good season for Brentwood, but I would pick the number 1 seed over the number 4 seed, especially with the championship pedigree that Heritage has.
All right, now it's time to move on to the 4A girls classification, and this is where we're going to be here today, the 4A, and the game that's leading off is number 2 Stratford, 23-2, coming in, taking on 20-4 St. Anne Pacelli, the defending champions. Pacelli has not lost a GIAA game in 2 years. They've won 28 straight GIAA games. Something's got to give. Stratford is coached by head Ed Smith, who's done an excellent job. This was going to be a close one, but I just think Pacelli, with the experience, a team that's gone back-to-back, motivated by the fact that they're a 3 seed, felt like they should have been a little bit higher. Coach Bryant Thomas's team here in Columbus, where they're located, I think they're going to get a big win over Stratford. It's going to be close, but I got Pacelli back in the championship game. What about you, Rich?
Well, Stratford is the number 2 team because they've only lost 2 games all season. They're in a very tough region as well, along there with Piedmont and Tatnall and First Presbyterian Day. They are battle-tested, but they have not faced a team like Pacelli before. No. Pacelli is the defending GIAA champions for a reason. I can understand why Stratford was ranked ahead of Pacelli. Even though I think this is going to be an evenly matched team, you got to look at common opponents. Stratford played Pacelli's biggest rival in the beginning of the season, Brookstone.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a complete blowout. I mean, Brookstone actually held their own against Stratford. Yeah. I actually, when I look at these two teams that haven't faced each other this year, I look at common opponents. I think Pacelli wins, and I think they win by double digits.
All right, and then that's at 3 p.m. here at Columbus 8. At 6 p.m., it's number 1 Athens Christian, the new team on the block. Coach Jeff Bond's team, been number 1 pretty much all year since the seeds came out. Taking on a team that's playing the state championship the last 2 years, winning 1 and losing 1. And Lori Hines' team back at it again here in the Final Four. This game, Athens Christian has beat George Walton, and they were in the same region. They've beaten them several times already, Richard.
Yes.
It's going to take a lot. It's going to take their best effort to take down the number 1 seed. That's why I got Athens Christian back in the championship over Pacelli. What are you looking forward to with this one?
Well, they're taking on George Walton for the 4th time this year.
Wow.
They are 2-1 against George Walton. These two teams very familiar with each other. I think that it's really neck and neck. I think the winner of that district could have got the number 1 seed because George Walton was in the top 2 for most of the year for the rankings. I think that they bumped down to the number 4 seed because they did not win the district. And I think that's why George Walton, who's just a fantastic team out of Monroe that's gone to the state championship the last 2 seasons, taking on an Athens Christian team coming over from the GHSA that went to the Final Four last year.
By the way, Stratford girls have just shown up. Pacelli's on their way, and we're about to get ready for what should be a great matchup here coming up at the Lumpkin Center. Let's go to the boys at 4:30. It's number 2 Chris O'Ray, led by Jadis Crawford, putting up 25 a game, the junior, taking on the newcomer Athens Christian and head coach Dan Lamp. And Coach Lamp's team trying to get to the championship in their first year here in the GIAA. The only other team that's done that, Pacelli, did that 2 years ago in their first year in the GIAA. making it to the state championship game. Cristo Rey's got the scoring to keep up. Do they got the size with the athletic ability and the way Athens Christian plays? I got Athens Christian in the championship game. Should be a lot of fun. That'll be at 4:30 here today. What do you got, Richard?
I think Athens Christian as a program itself, making that move from the GHSA to the GIAA has been paying off for this school. I think the Athens Christian boys end up beating Cristo Rey, and they go to the championship. We're going to see an all Athens Christian championship, and it's going to be something to see because they do have some passionate fans. And by the way, I was looking at Athens Christians, their schedule, and they've played a lot of tough opponents, especially in that just outside the metro Atlanta area over there in the Athens area, and it should be a lot of fun.
I can't wait for that. And then the nightcap, the team that's won 38 games in a row, the team that is undefeated this year and has not lost since early of last year in January. We have the #1 Pacelli Vikings taking on Tatnall Square. It was led by Matt Chambliss, his team 22-4. They got a big win over Stratford. They actually finished in region play undefeated this year. What do you see with this one? I honestly think it's going to be a lot closer than many people think. Pacelli is right now the prohibited favorite. They've won 38 games in a row for a reason. I think Tatnall's going to come out with their head on fire, and they're going to play excellent basketball at 7:30 tonight. I'm still going Pacelli. I got Pacelli Athens in the championship, just like I do with the girls. But what about you? Do you see an upset maybe brewing with Tatnall Square and Pacelli?
Look, Tatnall's a very good team. They've had a fantastic year, but I just don't think they've faced a team like Pacelli. Again, I look at common opponents. Calvary Christian, one of the rivals in Pacelli's district. They did lose to Tatnall earlier this year, but Tatnall, who has to take on Stratford, who has to take on Piedmont, they got to take on FPD. They got some tough opponents, but Pacelli's size is going to be the difference in this game, especially when you have a two-way guard in Jalen Bush that can create offense, and he can also turn defense into offense. And then your post players, Makai Williams, Michael Rowe, and Matthew Melvin. That's just too much size down low. But I think that it's going to be close in the first three quarters.
Yeah.
But I think Pacelli's depth runs away with it, and they win by double digits.
That will be at 7:30 tonight. So we got 2A and 4A at Bruton, Parker, and here in the Lumpkin Center. $39.99 access to both locations. Watch 8 games for basically $5 a game. Incredible price. You're seeing excellent level broadcasting, and we are excited about it here. And we'll be back again for this pregame show tomorrow right here at the Lumpkin Center to preview the 1A and 3A state championship games.
Here we go.
And then 2A and 4A will be on Saturday. From Richard Holdridge, I'm Thrift Barringer. Thank you so much for watching. And we're going to see you in about an hour and a half for the 2A and 4A semifinals right here on GIAA.tv.
GIAA.tv now brings you more live coverage of more sports than ever before. Announcing GIAA.tv Lite with live coverage of swim, wrestling, cheer, and more. GIAA.tv Lite is the next best thing to being there. From one screen, you will hear the crowd, see the action, the scores, the stats, and more. With no play-by-play or instant replays, GIAA.tv Lite is half the price of our regular broadcast. Announcing GIAA.tv Plus. With all of your fan favorites, GIAA.tv Plus now adds volleyball, softball, all-star football, and more. Featuring all the play-by-play, instant replays, multiple angles, and more, all for less than the cost of 2 adult tickets to the event. Don't miss 1 second of the action all year long, only on GIAA.tv.